হৃদয় আমার প্রকাশ হলো অনন্ত আকাশে। হৃদয় আমার প্রকাশ হলো বেদন বাঁশি উঠল বেজে বাতাসে বাতাসে। হৃদয় আমার প্রকাশ হলো অনন্ত আকাশে। হৃদয় আমার প্রকাশ হলো।
Namaskar. Hello everyone. My name is Vishnu Priya. I am the editor-in-chief with the Antonym collection. I have with me today a very special guest and translator, Monjira Dasgupta. She is the translator of our first collector's edition book, Memoirs and Letters of RabindranathTagore. It is a curation of 10 letters Tagore wrote from his first trip to Europe and an excerpt from his memoir Jibon Sriti. Monjira Di has been a professor of economics by profession. She is also a singer and this is her first translation project, but which doesn't read like it at all. So very a warm welcome to Antonym discussion today, and let us start today's session. Monjira Di, why don't you tell us about what inspired you to pick up this project?
Okay, so more than a translation project, I would say this is a reader's journey to understand and interpret Tagore. So you see, when I was in college, I came across his Jibon Sriti, and earlier than that, I should say in school, later school. So I came across Jibon Sriti, and there were parts which I instantly felt it would read so nice in translation. So that was the beginning of the seed of a translation project. So I love
for the stories.
Yes.
There. Yes. I think also there is something timeless when you read memoirs and letters, and especially with someone like Tagore whose relevance is timeless. So when we also started reading your first submission, when it came to us, I also felt the same instant connection. You could connect to it even if these letters were written almost a century, 1872. Yes, but I could, as a person belonging to a completely different era, I could feel that connection. So but when you started, I'm sure this project was like, as both of us know, it shaped up slowly. So did you imagine it as a book, or how did that happen? Like, how from Jibon Sriti, the letters, what was the journey? That is what I'm interested in learning.
Okay, so I thought that why don't I look up some references where this is being written, this Jibon Sriti episode. So then I came across Europe Prabashir Patro, and also very tentatively, I made 2 or 3 translations. And then things happened, and I got into touch with Antonym, who actually were instrumental in making me think about a series first and then a book. So it was totally undreamt of. Left on my own, I would never have tried this.
So you started with translating the memoirs, excerpts of the memoir. For those who are reading this, yet to read the book, this is a very special curated collection of Tagore's 10 letters Rabindranath wrote from his first trip to Europe, when he was sent as a very young boy, a boy of 17 years. And he kept writing letters one after the other, and those letters were published in Bharati Potrika regularly. and then there are later on also when he was writing his memoir, we see references, stories from that journey. So we have created this book, curating those 10 letters from his first trip, and very enjoyable episode he remembers, anecdotal episode from Jibon Sriti. So for Monjiradi, he started out translating bits and pieces as part of a passion, I would say, like
Part of
as
a passion, yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I wanted to ask you, because this is a book that was written, not a book, but the letters were written more than 100 years back. So I'm very interested to know, as a translator, what are the challenges, or if there were any challenges that you faced along the journey?
If there were any challenges were many, too many, I should say. So the first challenge was that would be common to any translator or translation work, which is cross-cultural. So that is the space, I mean, it's not specific to any writer or any particular work, but it's common to any translation project. And that is, I am trying to interpret for the Western audience something that is essentially Eastern, Oriental point of view. That is number one. Number two is the language. We all know that translating Tagore's language, which is, I mean, superlatively
Refined.
and higher than anything else we have seen. So to do justice to those phrases and sentences, it's a mammoth task, and I thank Vishnupriya and Antonym for helping me through this journey. And finally, there is the question of tense. The author is, I mean, effortlessly flitting back and forth between the past tense and the present tense. Now, to do that suitably in English was another challenge.
Right. I think this is something that we very commonly face when we translate texts from Bangla to English language, because in Bangla the flow of tenses is very different from the way it works with English. So I personally feel the translations are they stand on very strong grounds, really. So congratulations on that. But can we read? I mean, since we are on discussing challenges and the text, why don't you read some favorite part of you, or if not favorite, some sections that were extremely particularly challenging in the whole, and then we will come to places where things were really enjoyable.
Before that, can I ask your view?
Of course.
What made Antonym choose these very preliminary drafts of chapters? And
Right.
what made you think about a series and a book? What did you see in this?
Yes, of course. I first came across the first bit of translations, the draft, as a submission from our magazine, and as I said before, also I felt an instant connection. They were old letters, but extremely readable, and so I felt. I'm sure Tagore is a household name for Bengalis, of course, and but very fast, because the more we are turning into a very global, very moving community, Tagore is often, he is still a household name, but I feel the readership, their readership is changing. Their language fluency is changing. So we always wanted to do something with Tagore, but he has already been extensively translated. So this felt like a very right initiation into approaching the vast body of work. And here another thing that I also was very excited about, this is not the world poet. These are the letters that a very young 17-year-old boy is writing on his first trip to Europe, and there is something very candid timid, very naive even about the letters, So I felt this in translation can make for a testimony of an immigrant mind, very, very long ago when there are far less, he was this unfamiliar there is experiences where he says people were actually throwing pebbles in the street because he looked very different with his, headgear, dresses and all of that. So
brown skin also.
Yes, brown skin, of course. So these are the things. This is my initial thought that if I want somebody from our generation to pick up a book on Tagore, this would be a book. These are the letters. This is a young man. What could be a better introduction to the poet of his caliber? Munjirati, why don't we read from the translation? Some part you are especially fond of. I'm sure all these letters are very special to us, but I would love to hear some, please.
Actually, it's very difficult to choose which particular chapter is more favorite because they are all unique. So I just read out from his letter, which is very famous for his lampooning of the Ingobongos or the anglicized Bengalis. So reading, this is the translation, of course, he wrote in Bengali.
Yes.
The Bengali words are so hard-hitting that you squirm sort of in your seat while you're reading them. So let me read from the book. Our Bengali youth regales Miss A with many tales relating to India, affirming his abiding fondness for England. He is most unwilling to go back to India. So this and some more white lies, Miss A easily gathers that this youth has been smitten by her. The thought pleases her, and she too begins to shoot arrows of the sweetest utterances, leaving our gentlemen in wonder, in awe. Ah, what clarity of expression! Think of those painstakingly muttered, barely audible yeses or noes of the girls back home, utterances that seem to disappear behind the veil itself whence they originate. And this abundance of honeyed verbiage flowing unstinted from the luscious lips, flooding one's veins like intoxicating wine. Now, one challenge for the translator, we were speaking of challenges quite some minutes ago. So the challenge, one of the very tough challenges has been translating these hard-hitting into English.
Yes. We had, even though it's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of back and forth between the
yes.
Now perhaps you can understand what kind of spices go into the making of the concoction called the Ingo Bongo from the original Bengali. I have not attempted to elaborate on the whole process here. This later would become enormous were I to discuss the details of all the factors that wreak such a sea change in the human psyche. So this is a bit about the Ingo Bongos as RNT termed them.
Now that we just read the letter 5, I think this is this is also the perfect place to start discussing this very important aspect of this book, which is its humor. And I think this was also another reason that we talked about briefly while translating. This was one of the motivations as well, how humorous these letters were. In every letter you find some very fun anecdote he shares, and also you were talking about also the excerpt. So I think that's do you think that acted as a motivation?
Definitely. You see, you mentioned the excerpt. The excerpt is from the Jiban Sriti and
the Memoirs
episode. He is reliving the tour to Britain in his 17 years. So here I have chosen the episode exactly for his description of the absurd situations sometimes he was left in, and that he described with so much humor, I should say self-deprecating humor.
Right.
Now,
yes.
In fact, I have searched and searched this exact word, self-deprecating. I have not found a Bengali equivalent yet.
Let me give you a little bit of a context on this excerpt that we are discussing. This is from again his first trip to Europe, where there was a elegy written in English, composed in English, and Tagore was asked to put it to Bihag Rag and sing it to guests, honored guests, and over and over and over again. And it was very absurd and it was very traumatizing. But being the very shy, somewhat awkward guy, he kept obliging his audiences. And then when he comes back and writes it, it's absolutely hilarious. And this is the case with most of these letters. And I think this is very important because in this book particularly, I felt the sense of humor is generally it's very challenging for translators, won't you say? Because it's very culture specific.
Very culture specific.
I think Monjirathi has done a wonderful job in bringing out the very natural, very candid form of humor, which is just this book sparkles with Tagore's very own brand of humor, which is not, which doesn't look down upon people, which is not harming in any way, but it's extremely enjoyable to read. So thank you so much, Monjirathi, for this really wonderful job, and we feel very honored to finally have put this book together. So, and I hope all our readers will also
would like to see the book.
Yes, we should. We should see. Yeah, this is the cover of the book.
And I thank Vishnupriya in particular and Team Antonym for having ultimately produced the book.
Thank you so much. You are most welcome.